Got it?
Yep, it's live.
Is it on my phone?
Not yet.
Battery 70%. Connected to Pixel.
Early in the morning, not worried about tomorrow, 'cause I know that it's a brand new day. Started making breakfast, turn the radio on play, 'cause I know that it's a brand new day. Realizing my own strength, I'm keeping hope that lives deep inside me. I feel the sun on my skin, pushing me to greatness, 'cause I know that I can make it. Don't know today, but I've got bills to pay. 'Cause I know that I know sometimes I get frustrated. 'Cause I know I'm so blessed, y'all. It's a new day, a new day. 'Cause I know that it's a brand new day. Cause I know that it's a brand new day. Realizing my own strength, I'm keeping hope that lives deep inside me. I feel the sun on my skin, pushing me to greatness, 'cause I know that I can make it. Morning dew brings a fresh awakening. With the dawning of each new day, you can begin again. Like a flower springing up, reaching for the sun. You can begin again. That's your day begin. Chasing my dreams, making things a reality. 'Cause I know that nothing can stop a new day. It's a brand new day. I have a smile on my face, 'cause I know about His love and grace. Yeah, 'cause I know that it's a brand new day. Oh, living my life, trying to love everybody right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Got my sword and my shield. Oh, baby, we're gonna win. 'Cause I know that it's a lovely day, lovely day, oh, lovely day, lovely day. 'Cause I know that it's a brand new day.
What's up, CoreofU fam? How's everybody doing this evening? Glad to see y'all. As always, we're wishing you love and happiness. And the most important thing during this time, especially during this time and this place and this moment, that you are having peace in your home. Good to see you all. Thanks for coming out and sharing this evening with us. This is our first live Zoom, and we're streaming it live through Facebook. So we're just thanking you guys and appreciating all you guys for supporting and participating with us. We have some subject matter that's kind of dear to our heart that we want to talk about today. But before we do that, before I give it to Wifey, I always want to thank my sister Danielle Page for that song, "A New Day." That's our theme song that one day we hope to be using. We'll be performing that live on stage somewhere in front of a whole bunch of people. But babe,
we just always want to kick off and say, CoreofU, that is the community of restoration and enlightenment. Community is what we all are collectively. In restoration, restoration to your default spiritual setting. We're all waking up in one another what we already know at the deepest sense of ourselves. And enlightenment is that light that you go out into in the community and spread. It is that upper room and that elevation that continues to happen as you get more knowledge. So I'm so thankful for everyone on here because we are of like energy and we're saying that we're about to up level together. Okay. So for those of you that aren't on or join us later, please share and follow us at TheCoreofU. You see it at the back, the CORE on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, and subscribe and share, and let's all get this together and build the community.
So let's get into it. We want to start by saying that we want to first of all take just a brief moment of silence for the families of the people that have been lost, murdered. Let's say what it was: murdered, lynched in cold blood in just the streets and on videos for the last two for all of us to watch. And it's been going on for a long time. So we want to make sure that let's just take a moment of silence for those victims and their families. Thank you guys for that.
I just had to take a deep cleansing breath because I just feel like I've been holding my breath all week, and there's been so much just emotion and pent up energy. And of course, if there's any healthy ways that you guys have been dealing with this, put it in the chat or raise your hand and let us know, because that's what this community of wisdom is about, sharing with one another how we are getting through. That's not the topic of tonight, but that's where the spirit led us. Just if you're handling in a certain way that you found to be cathartic or to be healthy, then let us know. We know that rioting is the language of people unheard, and there's a lot of pent up frustration, and we don't want to hurt our communities and ourselves, but we also understand why there is so much hurt going on right now.
No doubt. Yeah. So if you are wifey, I was at work today and Bianca called and said Lyric they pray in the morning together. And Lyric, I don't want to mess it up. What did she say? What was her prayer?
Lyric said, I pray that the police see Black people as people. Right. That's what my 5-year-old daughter said this morning while we were doing our prayer. There were some other things, but that's what stood out to me most. And, just trying not to cry, but it does hurt. And I know we're all feeling it.
Definitely. So during this time, what we're trying to do best, guys, what we've always tried to do in so much darkness, just try to spread a little light. That's all we want to do. We don't want to use this as a political stage or nothing like that. We have our feelings, we have our beliefs, and and I just pray that you guys all stay safe and find healthy ways to deal with this. And if you have any suggestions, please let us know. Feel free. So let's get into this today. Today, we're talking about two things. The first thing is B and I, when we first started dating, one thing that we found in common with one another was our love for, she calls it sitting at the foot of wisdom. And it was perfect for me because I'm like, well, what does that mean? And what it meant was sitting at, taking time to learn from your elders, just sitting with them and getting some of that wisdom, some of that good old stuff that you just don't learn every day, just some of that stuff that, man, it's like priceless, where when you walk away, you almost feel like you owe them some money or something, because they just have given you just a new look on life, a new look on, just on everything, and stuff that you may have been frustrated about and ready to fight and cuss and scream. And you go in and talk to some of the elders sometimes, and they're just like, listen, why are you allowing that to stress you? Or why are you allowing that to get you? And so we want to talk about that. But in our conversations with one another, it led us. And so for about, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I watched one of my favorite movies, which is The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz, if you have or have not watched it, I believe secretly for me, The Wizard of Oz there are themes and lessons in the movie The Wizard of Oz or the book that will help up level you in life, in reality. I know it's something that was done in fantasy, but I believe there are so many spiritual themes in that movie, in that book, that can help you. So we want to talk about some of that too and get into some of that. But with the wisdom, Bishop Allen Cox is a man that I talk to a lot. My grandmother, Mother Ruthie Lathan, my grandmother, my godmother, then Mother Letha Booker. I still get any chance I get, anytime I get. There's a young lady on tonight with us today. Her name is Dorothy James. I love talking to her and just getting that wisdom and sitting in there and just sitting at the foot of that, and whatever her experiences are and the things that she's been through and things that she teach on a spiritual level, you just walk away just feeling brand new. And you feel so good when you get that information. And yeah, wow, yeah. Aunt Priscilla always dropping knowledge, giving us that. And that's what we love. My god sister and god brother Kelly and Rick, they're on tonight. We often talk, and we've stayed up till 2-3 in the morning just talking about the word of God, about spiritual things, about life, our mistakes that we made, and just being real with one another. And it's always been so powerful. And I must definitely say thank you to my mom, B's mom, Mother Valerie. Always willing to give me an ear. And I've stopped her in the middle of working where I know she's busy and doing things, and just listen to her and some of the wisdom, and she just does it with such grace. So we want to be thankful and pay homage to those that have come before us to just give us that wisdom, that knowledge, that understanding that comes from just life's experiences.
And my cousin Nate is on, Airman Nate, and what I want to say is his grandfather is like the patriarch of our family. And one of the reasons that we know that we came from Denmark, BC.
Right.
And we got Johnny on, like that's an uncle to us. So what you do is you surround yourself, you insulate yourself with like-minded people so you can push one another. You know, as the term says, iron sharpening iron, going to the next level. And you don't have to be up in years to be up in wisdom and experiencing certain levels. There's people on here like Antoinette, who's a master of yoga. And, you know, we have politicians and different people in our realm right here on this Zoom with us that we can be thankful that we are pushing one another. But it's not just natural, it's spiritual wealth, it's spiritual wisdom. And we're saying, there's a better way, a more enlightened path. Let's get to it. No doubt. If you can see enlightenment in the Wizard of Oz, then you can walk out your door and see enlightenment in a blade of grass. That's right. You can look down your street and see enlightenment where other people will see darkness. No doubt. And all it takes is a match to brighten the room. So let's all be the matches and let's talk about this stuff.
Yeah, anybody got anything on wisdom that they would like to share? Anything that sticks out for them? I could go on and on for days and days with my conversations with Bishop Cox. And he was a carpenter, and he also worked in the field. So he also knew, like, just plowing and things like that, corn, and he was excellent at all of those things. And we could be up on the roof with a hammer and some nails and putting shingles on. And some of y'all men on here know about putting shingles on the house. And some of y'all ladies may know it too. No,
my great grandmother built houses.
I don't want to discriminate, right? So, but out in the middle of the sun, putting shingles on, and he's taking the nail and hammer, teaching me about the word of God. And he's saying, listen, the word of God is just like this hammer and this nail. If you hit it right and do it right, it'll drive straight in and it'll stick and it'll last forever. And sometimes it can be like the other side of that hammer. Sometimes you need to pull it out because it just hurt. It ain't good for you. You don't like the way it feels. And all of these things that he would teach, and I could be on the tractor bouncing around, my little body, big old head bouncing all around, going down, and he got corn and he's planting all these things. And he's just teaching me, giving me life's wisdom, right? Using these plants and using corn as metaphors of how we should be. One of the things that he taught me is that some plants, they have what they call suckers that grow on them, like roses and stuff. And somebody that knows what they're doing goes out and they'll plant and they'll cut those off and they'll prune. And he would talk about this, and he would say, sometimes in your life, you got to be able to prune. You got to know what to prune. You got to know when to prune, and you got to know how. You'll cut off something that's actually the flower if you don't know what you're doing. So I'm looking at that, and what was the metaphor, what he was saying? You got to really know what you're doing in life. Some people in your life are only there for a season. They only there for a reason. They're only there for a certain specific and amount of time. Don't hold on them too long, because they'll be like those suckers and drain all your substance and all your energy. And then there's some other people that you need to nurture, and you need to give them sun, and you need to give them water, and you need to really nurture those relationships, because those are the people that's going to be around. Those are the people that's going to have your back. Those are the people that's going to be there for you, especially like this, when times are down, you're not feeling good, you're a little upset with the world, you just waiting for somebody in the grocery store to jump crazy with you, because but lay your religion down and you're ready to smack somebody. But you can't always be that way. You can't always do that. You got to make sure that you stay level-headed and respond and interact appropriately and accordingly.
So let's give anybody a moment. Is there anybody that wants to share? Okay,
all right, there it is. Go ahead. You know how to do it, Johnny. Unmute yourself, man.
There we go.
What's going on, y'all?
Hey.
The core, and this is a beautiful moment. So I won't waste a lot of time. My thing, when you're doing math, you always you have the ingredients to make a math problem. You have a minus or plus or times, three numbers, the two numbers that you put in, and one is the sum total of what your ingredients are in that equation. And when it comes to wisdom, because people see people as smart, right? They're smart. When they might really mean they're intelligent.
Okay.
Right? And then there's an intelligent person who is not smart.
Mm-hmm.
Which means you can be dumb, right? And then run into somebody or something and fall into something that seems intelligent to you. So you go ahead on and add with that. Mm-hmm. But if intelligent people do the dumbest things, right? And one of the dumbest people I know, we're not talking politics, one of the dumbest people I've ever heard of has a really big job. Right? So you can fall into a job that takes intelligence only because you were smart in whatever kind of way, relating to people. You got to get the gab, you got the con on, whatever it is.
Right.
But in math terms, you can add smart. To me, smart times intelligence equals wisdom, because you're smart enough to take that intelligence and use it backwards, presently, and in the future.
Yeah.
Whatever success, I believe, comes from what you learn, what you're experiencing now. And if you're not satisfied with that, which most successful people aren't, then you look to the future to get what it is to gather your success. So if you got smart times no intelligence, that's zero. Smart, anytime times zero, a million times zero equals zero. Or you can have the intelligence with no smarts, and you just get zero out of the whole experience. Wisdom is something tangible that you can pass on and utilize to help other people, because there is no bad wisdom to me. Right. All wisdom is a blessing from God that you pass on.
No doubt.
That's right, from God. And I think he touched on something important: application.
Yeah.
How are you applying your knowledge? So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Nate, go ahead, man. Unmute yourself. What you got?
Okay. I definitely, I just have a couple things I wanted to touch on about wisdom. I know I might be one of the younger faces in the crowd here, but that kind of went to one of my points. So just looking up, dictionary describes wisdom as being the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment. So the quality of being wise. And one of the things I like to always emphasize, that all of us can learn from anybody that's out there, right? I guess I'm 31, but in the world of flying, I'm relatively young, but I'm also an instructor. And you see that you have different types of knowledge that's out there. Some people are subject matter experts. Some people have the experience of having been around and seen a wealth of different things throughout their life.
Right.
And it's important to know what type of wisdom you can gain from each person.
Oh, now can you drinking from? All right.
Mhm.
I know Bianca mentioned my grandfather, and you know I've grew up around him, and he can tell you about anything and everything, right? You know, he's been around 88, you know, almost 80 years come this August, and he's seen it all. So I'm always picking up different stories, different things, just different nuggets of knowledge from him,
Right.
because things that he's seen in life, they come right back around, right? He's already lived it.
Yep.
I've also noticed at my job that there are a lot of even younger pilots than me that have seen something about a plane or about a mission set that I never knew about, and they can teach me something. So even as I'm on my last day, you know, going out the military, there's still things out there that I don't know or didn't know, and I can still learn from somebody who's even younger. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows you can still learn stuff from anybody and everybody, because we all have different types of wisdom or different types of knowledge that we can pass on.
Excellent point.
I often say, you know, I think a lot of times, and I'll use this kind of a spiritual metaphor, we talk about drinking from the fountains, right? And we talk a lot about the water, and we look at the kind of water, whether it's clean or whether it's, you know, not clean. Obviously, you don't want to drink no nasty or no dirty or no smelly water. But I think in my life, what I've learned, man, is the water is definitely important, but the fountain that's giving the water is probably more important, because you can have clean water coming from a dirty fountain and it's going to still make it stagnant. It's going to make it nasty. You got to be careful. You got to really, really, really be careful. And what I mean by that is, if a person is giving you truth, but their intentions are all wrong and bad, and they don't really care for you, or really, and they just giving truth. You know, you have those people like Johnny was talking about. You have those intelligent fools just giving you something just so they can say, just because they want to say something. You got to really be careful. You got to really, and then us, you know, a lot of us on here go to church and stuff like that. You really got to be careful, because folks think that, yeah, you're in church, and that, no, all church gives you all truth and that's it. That's not always the case. You really have to be careful of the fountains you drink from, that you allow to feed. I know for me that I allow to feed my soul, to feed my spirit, because you'll find yourself waking up the next day or two and you starting to contemplate some of those things. And you're like, well, wait a minute, now I don't allow this energy to kind of rub off on me. And
there.
You gotta really, really be careful. And listen, everybody's not going to be perfect. I'm not talking about that. I'm not saying everybody's going to be perfect. Everybody's not always going to be articulate in the way they give it. I learned some wisdom one day from a wino on the street, and he dropped some knowledge on me, and I stayed talking to him for 3 hours. And man, and he was like, can you go, young fella, can you go in there and buy me something to drink? I said, man, you gonna keep giving me this knowledge? I sure will. What you want? Went in there, 15 bucks, whatever, bought him the biggest thing in there that they had. And man, he dropped knowledge on me, and I was like, man, thank you, sir. Just talking to me, he was giving me just simplistic principles about life, about being a young man and how to carry yourself. And when I saw him, I said, how you doing, sir? He said, I like that. You looked me in your eye when you said that. And he said, yeah, he said, no, not many people gonna refer to me as sir, but they don't even know I had all of this rank in the military, and he had fell on hard times, and he went to talking. And I'm like, wow, are you serious? But if I would have judged from the outer appearance, you know, I wouldn't have been able to get that knowledge that he had. And then it's not going to always look like the way we think it should look like and come the way we want, you know. And that's why I try to pride myself on making sure I keep people around me that ain't gonna always be yes men and yes women too. I need somebody to tell me no if I'm wrong.
Right.
I need somebody to pull my coattail, definitely.
Yeah. And it doesn't have a number, Nate. You're right. Age and wisdom can come up and down the spectrum, because when you're in spirit, you don't even see age. Amen.
Right.
I mean,
no doubt.
That transcends flesh. So we just got to be in discernment at that point.
Right.
Discernment. So I definitely agree with that.
Anybody else would like to share? If not, we'll get into this wizard. this story of the Wizard of Oz, who like I said, I don't know. I guess once again, being up under Bishop Cox, he gave us a spiritual eye. He helped nurture our spiritual eye, I should say, that allowed us to see things differently. And as many years as I've watched The Wizard of Oz, it was a child, it was great. I loved it. Dorothy, Toto, the wizard, you know what's gonna happen at the end. I hope it's not gonna be a spoiler for anybody on here today. I would hope that by now you've seen The Wizard of Oz. But if not, after this conversation today, you might want to go back and look at it through a spiritual lens. It's going to be different.
And before you go into it, I just want to read some of the Facebook comments.
Oh, yeah,
Stephen
Facebook
Alfaro says, intelligence in one field doesn't equate to intelligence in another.
No doubt.
Right? And he
Yeah.
said, clean water from a dirty faucet, still in that one.
Yeah, no doubt. What's going on, cuz? Yeah. So watching this Wizard of Oz, I'm looking at this story about the main character's Dorothy. And when you look at Dorothy, Dorothy really represents, if you watch her, they're in Kansas, and she really represents common man. If you know anything about Kansas, it's agriculture, it's farmers. That's how it was back, especially back in that time. It's farmers and it's agriculture and it's blue collar and it's, get up in the morning at 5 and work hard and all of this stuff, right? And that's so she represents the common man. With her, though, is her best friend that's always around, Toto. Toto in the spiritual realm actually represents your intuition, or some people call it your conscious. I think that Jimmy Cricket on I Got Children. So somebody on Facebook said they've never seen Yoshi. You got to go watch it. They've never seen The Wizard of Oz all the way through. But the Toto represents your intuition. And I often say intuition is the forgotten gift. Because of the distractions that the world throws at us, because of our distractions that we entertain ourselves sometimes, if we would just be still, and once again, Bishop Cox again, he would say it would come to you in a little small voice, and it would tell you. And one thing about it, it's never wrong. It always is going to speak in your favor. It's never going to speak against you. And it's always going to have your best interests at heart. Only if you listen, though. It's so important that we nurture that intuition. And if you watch Toto all through the movie from beginning to end, he barks when trouble is around. That's your intuition. That is your intuition. He barks when trouble is around. Even when they get around the lion, he barks. And and going back and watching now, so there's a lady in there named Mrs. Gulch, who you find when Dorothy gets in her dream, she ends up being one of the wicked witches, the one that tries to get her all through the thing. And she keeps saying to Dorothy, I'm going to take that dog from you. And she actually comes and brings a letter of something from the lawyers or from some police, from the police in that county to take it. What you find immediately, like, okay, get Dorothy, but why you keep trying to mess with her dog? Because the enemy's greatest hurt that the enemy can do to you and I is to steal your intuition. And technically, he actually can't steal it, but this is what he does. And I talk to the people at church all the time. If the enemy he'll do two things. He's either going to distract you or discourage you. He's either going to distract you from your gift or discourage you from your gift. Either way, it's the same as you not knowing that you have a gift. Yep. And if you fail to use it, what good is it, right? So that's what Toto is doing through this whole movie. He's intuition, and he's talking, and he's yapping, and he's the smallest one of them all. But a lot of times, even there's a part in there when it gets towards the end where the witch has Dorothy and has her tied up, and Toto goes and finds the lion in them to bring all of them to her to help them save her. And we'll get into that and talk about that. You got anything about that intuition?
No, it's just,
Toto?
I mean, that you're saying everything. You're saying everything. So we got to work hard in our real life to make sure our intuition doesn't get discouraged or make us doubt. I mean, I've been testing myself. I talked about this last week. I will take note just as much of the times where I don't listen to my intuition as when I do, because it teaches me, don't doubt next time. And when you're really in alignment, it's like you think and you do. You don't question it. And when the temple is clean and when you don't have anger and things that are upsetting your physical realm,
Right.
you act and do.
Right.
Like I was sending emails this week and people were like, and text messages, and it was just coming to me, and people were like, I was just thinking about you. I was just about to write you. And I was celebrating that, them small ways I was working my muscle, because when it comes to the big ways, like, don't go to work today. And like when you were a police officer and you say, I'm not going to work today, and they have a shootout, or don't turn that way, and that's the block that gets shut down. My mom's on the phone. There was one time we were walking across the street, and I can't even tell you, it was like spirit in one. I just did this to her. And we had the light, and a truck came barreling through the intersection. We're walking now. We're walking. And I've done it more than once. So intuition is everything. We have to guard it. We have to be aware of it, and we have to value it.
And the three greatest enemies to intuition is fear, pride, and ego. Those are the three greatest enemies to your intuition. If you allow fear to get in, you won't operate at your full capacity, right? Because you'll be afraid. And then sometimes people operate strictly out of fear and not intuition, or as we were saying earlier, wisdom, and they find out they do more harm than they do good. Because you go after the enemy, but you also end up cutting somebody that's an innocent bystander. You know what I'm saying? Look, think of all of these things that we're saying in metaphoric, like spiritual terms. You know, sometimes you do that if you just fighting out of fear. We used to call it back in the day, somebody go into a windmill and they just hit about 3 or 4 people, but they swing like 20 times and only hit them really twice. So you want to not use all of that energy swinging wildly and operating wildly. You want to make sure you try to hone your intuition in, so that way, if you do have to swing spiritually or God forbid, naturally, you hit them once and you hit them good and you knock them out and you keep moving. You understand what I'm saying? You understand. So that's what we're talking about today. Miss Dorothy, you're on here. Please give me something about intuition. I know you got something. Come on, give me something. You good? You good?
I'm good. I was just sitting here enjoying.
Okay.
You know, for me, I would agree. Intuition is definitely one of those natural innate abilities that we have as human beings, and we don't use it enough, or we doubt ourselves, or we're fearful. The fear will shut it down. And you know, the acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real.
That's
right.
And it's not real, because reality really most of the time is perspective. But the inner core, the connectedness that you have with your inner core, if you're really connected, that intuition is there, and it operates higher than your senses. It's
okay.
Yes.
You know, it's all of those senses working together as one.
Right.
And you have to remember to relinquish what you might sense in the physical realm. If you relinquish it to the intuition, it moves you up the chart into the higher vibrations of what's going on in the situation.
Yes. And I love that, because that goes, and so, and you know, us, that's you know, powerful. That's real powerful, right? I mean, because most people, when you talk about that, they think of this then at church, they say faith. That's, a lot of people talk about that, faith. And most people, if you say, well, what's the opposite of faith? They will immediately say doubt, but that's not actually true. The actual opposite, direct opposite of faith is sight. It's actually sight, because faith means I'm moving in spite of what I'm seeing. I'm still operating in spite of what I'm seeing around me. I'm still able to be at peace, even though I'm a little ticked off this week about what they did and what's been going on. I still can have peace enough that I don't allow that to come into the household, and I allow that enemy to get in me, and then I'm not getting along with my wife, or I'm not getting along with my children. You understand what I'm saying? And they know, your children, my children are they are extremely perceptive. So they'll come in a minute, Daddy, you need a hug. You need a hug. I'm like, yeah, Daddy needs a hug. And they just know Daddy done had a long day. And yeah, you know, and they don't know what's going on, but I mean, exactly, but they know. I think somebody said, she said, repeat that.
Repeat that, cousin. I'm taking notes, but you said the opposite of faith.
Oh, the opposite, because a lot of times people say the opposite of faith is doubt, because they equate faith with belief. So if you believe, if you have faith, the opposite of that most of the time is doubt. But scripture actually says we walk by sight and not by faith, right? I mean, we walk by faith and not by sight. right? So the opposite actually really is sight. The opposite of faith is sight, because, and check this out, man, and it's deep. I was watching this thing with Tyler Perry on Joel Osteen that Sister Priscilla sent to us, man, and he was talking about it today. He was just talking about staying the course, climbing in spite of my circumstances of what's going on around me. Are you able to still operate as you, whole and complete, when things aren't going the way that they seem or should go?
Right.
And that's tough, man. That's tough. I listen to TD Jakes a lot, and he talks a lot of times about your vision. You go to sleep sort of spiritually, and God gives you this vision only to open your eyes to reality. And reality has you way back there, and your vision sees you way up here moving. How do I get from there to here? And I'm telling y'all, that's what this journey of the Wizard of Oz really is. It's actually a journey of enlightenment. That's all that's going on here. It's actually a journey of enlightenment. And all through this journey, Dorothy had to just stay the course. And she had some help along the way. And that's why we talked about people surrounding yourself with wise counsel and people who love you and not having just a bunch of yes men, because along your path, you're going to need those different people.
You're going to need those spirits. And Antoinette Beaver says it's extremely hard because your focus is off. You know, when you talk about not walking in sight, I was moved to ask a question. We have two servicemen on. Well, one is a veteran, one is a serviceman. We got veteran Rick Duncan and Airman Nate Golston. How many times did you guys have to operate in your intuition different from your training to see you through a circumstance? Because when you're talking about life and death, their careers involve the highest level of life and death and doing things with clearances and things. And not for you to talk about anything that you're uncomfortable, but I'm sure there has to be times where you had to rise above your five senses and be like, I got to do this. My training might say do this, but I know that I need to do this to complete the mission or stay alive.
And I've been there, and I'll just add, and they know this, and you guys chime in, either one of you guys, I'll just add that you're trained constantly from sun up to sundown. You train. It's repetition, so that can become an automatic reflex. But there are things and times and situations that you get into something, you don't necessarily want to just operate like that, just from the book of what they say, because the circumstances call for a different kind of weapon, or maybe you got a different kind of enemy. So you guys, you talk about it. Let me know what you got. Unmute yourselves, guys. What do you say?
Okay, Rick's going in first.
Oh, go ahead, Nate. Go ahead, Nate. Then Rick go.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I can jump in. I mean, it's crazy that you mentioned that. You see it throughout different phases or different aspects of your career, especially being a pilot, and a pilot who does actually, I employ weapons, hellfires, bombs, all that stuff. So in terms of going against the training and going off of intuition, it's just, you get those weird moments, right? So I was flying, I was stationed in Vegas, the plane is overseas in a whole different country, and you kind of get like that little tingly feeling on the back of your neck.
Yeah.
And I remember I'm watching, I'm watching some people loading up into a truck, right? So this is typical, all the scenarios I've ever seen in training, right? They load up into a truck, they start driving, they start picking up stuff, and you're looking and you're like, okay, they look like they're being suspicious. You're following, you're watching, and everything in training is telling you like, hey, like these guys are doing, something bad, right? Everything that you would see, because they start going out and digging and placing different things. So, the person I'm working with is sitting there saying, hey, like we got to call this in. We got to go ahead, get the, what is it? It's called a 9 line. We got to get the 9 line, which is the approval to do the strike and drop it. But like the whole time I'm just sitting there, you get that little tingly feeling on the back of your neck, and you're like, something's not right. I'm watching and I'm like, why would they be doing this? Like, why would they be here placing, whatever we think they might be placing, digging bombs, IEDs, whatever it is here? I'm like, it doesn't make much sense. And so I ended up saying, hey, like, let's pause, time out. Let's just watch and observe for longer. I'm here for hours. And so we ended up watching and waiting for a while. And then it turns out it looks like they were actually just security for the neighboring village, as opposed to somebody who was planting something for, our troops to come through.
Wow.
So, and you just see different things like that. Everything through my training has been, hey, you got guys, they got shovels, they're digging in the road, they're probably setting up this. And you're like, okay, I should be coming in with a missile.
So following your instincts saved their lives, just holding off.
Right. And you just holding off, or just, like I said, sometimes it's that tingly feeling, or you're just like, I wish I had another piece of information. Something just isn't sitting right with you.
Right.
And so, I mean, I've seen it multiple times throughout my career where things like that have happened.
That's
No
powerful.
doubt. Rick?
Thank you for sharing.
Thanks, man.
That's powerful.
Well, in my situation, being over there in Iraq and Afghanistan and training up here in the United States, like Nate said, it's totally different. Training here in the States, and then you get over there and seeing how things really are. And a lot of times the training that I was trained on wasn't even used, because my like you said, my intuition and the spirit of the God of Israel was talking to me about doing things differently to keep us safe.
Yes.
And a lot of times my sergeants would ask me like, well, why did you do it that way? Or I'm glad you did it that way, because if we had did it the way we was trained, we would have lost a lot of soldiers. So,
Wow.
sometimes you just have to be mindful of what's going on inside of your head. And the military is always about hurry up and wait. So it was a lot of times that scenarios I had time to think about, like, well, if we come across something and we wasn't trained on that, what would be the best solution for us to come out of the situation that we're in? And a lot of times it was just common sense.
Yeah.
There you go.
No
there
doubt.
you go. That's
love
powerful.
that, man. So you guys are giving us some, I love
Real
that.
life application.
Real life application of the intuition.
Of life and death.
And so, that's why I think it's powerful, that it's always powerful in peacetime, I guess, using from where we all come from, right? In peacetime, it's so important that you nurture your intuition so that you're more prepared or better prepared when you get in wartime. Yeah. And why everybody else is panicking, just like some are panicking and falling off their rocker right now, and they're ready to explode. But you want to sit back and you want to say, okay, what's my best way to help? What's my best way to fight the injustice? Or what's my best way to handle this situation? What's my best way to get this boss off of my case on this job? She don't, you know what I mean? That's getting on my nerves every day, instead of just slapping her, then you getting put in cuffs and going to jail. You want to try to handle it great. And I like that. Nate said, make your next move your best move. I love that.
Look at this
wisdom.
I love it.
So let's get into, so let's talk about it. So we got Dorothy, who represents the common man, the everyday person. That's why they wanted to use her. You got Toto is your intuition. Right, your intuition. Bishop used to call it in church, they call it the spirit of truth.
Okay.
That, so whatever that is, so you listen to that little small voice. And so then Dorothy goes through all of these things at home, right? And she meets, and she has all of these caretakers on the farm and all of that, and Anim and all these people. Then the tornado comes, her house gets taken away.
While she was in a moment of emotion,
right? Because
she was responding emotionally, she was out and vulnerable, away from her family, and got taken up in a tornado.
So you
gotta be careful when you feeling vulnerable, and when you leave yourself out there. A lot of us isolate spiritually and physically, and then you get snatched up in a storm alone.
Responding from emotion.
Right.
And that is another reason why you want to nurture your intuition. So that you don't automatically, or nurture your spirituality so that you don't automatically respond from emotion. Emotion has gotten a lot of people in trouble. Responding from emotion has some tombstones out in the graveyard, because people responded from emotion. And jails, not all, but some, you know what I'm saying? Right. And so you don't want to respond all the ways from emotion. Right. You want to take a little bit of that, put it in with your intuition. And as Johnny was saying earlier, be wise, right? I often would say, I think the scripture talks about get wisdom, get knowledge, but above all, get an understanding. I would often say that wisdom is understanding when and how to use the knowledge, or when and
Oh,
how
there
to
we
apply
go.
knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So we got Toto, we got, and so then she gets to Munchkin Land. Let's just fast forward there. She gets to Munchkin Land, and all these little people are running around. And so there's a spiritual part of that aspect of too, because she's in this dream and she's starting off because of her emotions. Really, her emotions is what got her in this situation. Remember that. Don't forget that part. B, that's a great part. Her emotions got her here, because if she wouldn't have ran away, she wouldn't have got caught in the thunderstorm. She'd have been down in the cellar with everybody else. But because she responded with emotion, she got caught out in the storm and in trouble. So now she's dreaming and finds herself in the land of Oz. And I told you, Nate, they introduced her to the yellow brick road. And the Munchkins represent your childlike self, the who you are in its most purest form. It really is. And however you were nurtured is really who you are. And there are some 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old adults that will respond and be ready to knock your head off right now. And it has nothing to do with you. It's all about how they were nurtured when they were young. And what they're really fighting is that memory of what happened back then. It has absolutely nothing to do with you. You're sitting there like, well, wait a minute. I didn't even mean that. And they don't care. They want to get you. They want to fight. That it has nothing to do with you. And so this is why it's so important to use wisdom in life, because sometimes wisdom will teach you to walk away from a situation because you're saying, they ain't even responding to me. Clearly, this is something that happened. It could have been something that happened to them at home this morning. It ain't got nothing to do with me. And now it's 5 o'clock in the evening and they're responding. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So somebody said, yeah, stay on the other. That is the inner man. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Rick said
Boy,
that.
he's been up under Bishop Cox for a little while. Yep. The yellow brick road is the inner man. And so she gets there. And so the childlike self. And so there are some parts of us that just want to be children in life. Just want to be children. We're grown. We just want to be children. And that's what it represented, the beginning of her journey.
Yeah.
The beginning of her enlightenment. So that's why she met all of the Munchkin Land, the children. And let me just fast forward and I will correlate it. When she got to the end of the yellow brick road and actually got to Oz, she ended up in a similar place. But understand that the people there were in the Emerald City called Oz. They were all adults. That lets you know she had made her journey. She had passed. She still had some tests to go through, right? But let's say this, she was more mature.
Right.
So a lot of us, when we become more mature, then we don't necessarily respond with so much emotion. And because there's a lot of immature grown-ups running around here. I'm guilty sometimes. And I told you, your pride, your ego, wifey tell me something, I'm like, I don't want to hear that. No, I'm wrong. And she like, so really, you're going to sit here and really disagree and have a disagreement with that? I don't want to hear that. That's that child me really going against my strict mother that I had. Has nothing to do with Bianca. I had a mother that was she was iron fist, right? So a lot of times I'm fighting against that in her. And then look, her mom was the same way, still is. And so she gets on her. And so we tease each other and say, this is Charlena and Valerie having a battle in this house. It ain't got nothing to do with neither one of us, but it's the way we were nurtured, and that's what's got us where we are. Seal, go ahead. Unmute yourself, Seal.
Real quick, guys. I always say, when you live your life by emotions, which a lot of times we do, your life becomes a yo-yo because emotions go up and down, up and down.
Yes.
So if you live your life like that, your life will become a yo-yo, and you'll look up and know I'm always on a roller coaster, because you're living your life by emotions instead of that little small voice that speaks to you. Because most of the time we'll get a check before we do something or say something or whatever. If it's not right, you'll get a little check. You can ignore it or you may not, but most of the time you will get a little intuition that tells you, no.
Right.
So anyway, I just wanted to say
and we be so angry, we override it. It spoke to us, but we override it because we're so caught up in self and no, I'm going to do what I want to do, how I want to do it. And the spirit is like, just relax. Just relax. It's all going to work out. I got you covered. Just relax. You ain't got to do anything. One time, man, I was so mad and so hot with this guy. I was in the military. And he was just messing with me for no reason. The Spirit said, just chill out. And next thing you know, my partner came up behind me and punched the dude right in the nose. And next thing you know, he knocked him out, and that was it. And God was like, listen, I told you, I'll fight your battles. You ain't got to do nothing. You ain't got to lift the fist. He was already in enough trouble, so it didn't matter to add that fight on to his record. I hadn't been in no trouble, so it was all good. So then she gets there. So you're childlike you, and you got to be careful in your life of the way that you were nurtured in your youth. Look back at your child. We talk to couples all the time. When you're dating, you want to know about a person's youth. How were you? Get around their family. See how they operate around their family. It will tell you so much about that person, right? You want to get there. And so then when she gets there, so guess what? She said, hey, I need to get to, I want to get back home. And that's her whole thing. Her whole vision is getting back home. A lot of us are on this journey, and all we're really trying to do is find our way back home. What is home? Back to, as Bianca often say, wifey always say, your default setting, back to the person or the character God made you to be. And you're just trying to find out a way to get back there. And all of these distractions and all of this hate and all of this naysayers and all of these things that come on, they will distract you and take you off the yellow brick road, which is your enlightened path, if you're not careful. So then when she gets to the yellow brick road, I think it's 3 ways that she can go. And what is the first, or who is the first person she meets that's going to help her out on her journey? The scarecrow. And the scarecrow represents brains, as we said before, as Johnny said, represents wisdom. And I'm telling you, these things, I believe, man, it's like the secret to life, all in this one little fairy tale movie. It really, really is. I mean, there are more nuances and things that you can learn, but it's giving you some basic stuff that I think we forget. So she gets to him, and what does he say? Well, I don't have no brains. So she helps him down.
And you know what just came to me? A lot of people try to get things and they try to acquire stuff, but if you go in first and you go up, all the other stuff will come to you. And that's what, if you're of the world, you'll be hustling and grinding for money and for capitalism. But if you're in spirit, you're always trying to elevate self, and the rest will come to you. No doubt. Desires, because you're just attracting what you are, and you just moving up. So it makes sense that the scarecrow, the wisdom, the brains, because that's where she needed to help with the rest of the journey.
No doubt. And I want to make sure I go back, because the witch, remember I told you the witch showed up. So even then the witch showed up. The enemy, the opposition is always going to show its face, right? It's always going to show. How you respond is the greatest thing. Her divine, they called her the good Glenda, witch. Yeah. Glenda was the good witch, which is divine self, showed up, and she talked to the enemy. And what did she say? Be gone. You have no power here. She
sure did.
Immediately, she said, be gone. You have no power here. And remember, they gave her the red slippers. Now, if you go back to the original text, the way it was originally written, those slippers were actually supposed to be silver. They weren't supposed to be red. When they got it in the movie, the book, they're silver. When they got in the movie, they made it red because it popped on the yellow brick road for cinematic purposes. It looked better. The silver didn't pop the way he wanted it to pop. So in its original context, it was silver. Silver represents, there is actually a scripture, and I'd have to look it up and find it. There's actually a scripture that talks about the silver cord. When the silver cord has been loosened, and it talks about then you go from your natural to the spiritual plane. The silver represents a connection between your natural and spiritual self. You always want to maintain that silver cord. You want your spiritual and natural self to stay connected. If they ever disconnect, have you ever met somebody that was so spiritual that they just were no earthly good? Because they were just so spiritual with everything. Just like, how you doing? Praise the Lord, God is good. Yes, oh, hallelujah. And you're like, okay, I mean, I know, I get it. I understand it, but come on now. I just asked you, can I have some chocolate chip cookies? You know, but then there are some people that you're mindful of that are just all natural. And you just like, wow, you didn't see that? You didn't see that? You didn't feel that? I just came in the room and felt that, and you didn't feel that or see that? Because they don't nurture their spirituality. And you can't blame them. A lot of times it's the environment they were raised in. So you don't scoff at that and scoff at them. You try to teach them. Pretty soon, we're going to get with Miss Dorothy to learn the art of meditation. And we want to teach it to our children. Why? Because we want to, first of all, remain balanced. And we want to make sure that there's always a connection between that silver cord, the natural and the spiritual. All right. And the enemy in there, the wicked witch, tried her best to get those red shoes. She tried her best, really. Now remember, tried to get those silver shoes. She was trying to steal those shoes. The enemy wants to keep you, try to fragment you and have you disconnected in your life.
Your power. And the witch warned her. She said, never let go of your slippers.
That's right.
Never give up your power.
That's right.
Always stay grounded. And we got a musician and a writer on here, HB. And it was powerful because when they killed the witch. Dorothy killed the witch by landing her house on her.
Right.
Was it the witch
sister.
of the East?
Right.
And the Munchkins sung a song and it said, they asked, was it the case that she was morally, ethically, spiritually, and physically dead? Now, when have you heard a nursery child book ask in there, is the witch morally, physically, ethically, and spiritually dead?
Right.
Now that's powerful. And I know HB can speak to the power of lyrics and the power of the word. But the thing is, they were making sure that spirit was gone, because we know the body can be gone, but if the spirit is here, you still got an enemy, which we found out.
No doubt.
She did have an enemy,
right.
Another enemy in the other sister.
And they were the wicked witch of the East and the West, was represented this. Back and forth. That's what the enemy tries to do. Back and forth, just trying to create destruction. When you become balanced, you operate more like this, up and down. Most people say it's this, but you really want to be this, in a straight line, up and down. What do they say? As is above, so below.
That's
what did the Lord's Prayer? Jesus Christ said in the Lord's Prayer, our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. He was saying, stay balanced, north and south. You want to be like this at all times. They told me back in the day, you don't want to walk bent over anyway, because somebody might jump on your back and you might not want to carry. You don't want to carry them. So if you stay straight up and down, they can't get on your back. Okay, so let's get to the next one. So she gets to that.
Does anybody have comments on what we said? Does anybody want to jump in here?
Camila, you set up? Yeah? No? Okay. Anybody?
All right, y'all, just jump in.
Somebody.
Okay,
we got
let's
some,
read the chats. Make sure we don't miss over on the chats, because we got some good stuff.
Usually when they are always spiritual, they are hiding something, from my experience.
All right,
I like
Anita,
that.
that's true.
Yeah, they're hiding something. When they just so spiritual, like I said, just so spiritual, so heavenly, they're no earthly good. That's just, Lord have mercy.
And Auntie Beyonce says she runs from people.
So we want to get, before we get on this journey, we got our intuition, and now we've just met up with wisdom.
Right.
And it's so important because wisdom is at the beginning of the journey. I think in scriptures, it talks about wisdom was with God in the beginning. It said wisdom was there in the beginning. And it often talks about wisdom and in the female, and not necessarily gender sense, but in the energy sense, female energy. And most women, they say, are smarter than men, especially when they're younger. Most of them, they say that. They say the girls learn way faster than the men do. They'll say that.
I mean, I'll take it.
No, so wisdom. So when you talk about wisdom, and that's what we're talking about. So wisdom. So you meet wisdom. So then they get on their journey. And what's the next thing they meet? After you get wisdom, they meet up with the Tin Man. And what's wrong with the Tin Man? He has become disconnected from heart. No heart. So emotions are important. They are, but they just are not the most important thing. If you get wisdom first, then you'll know how to interact and operate your heart, right?
That's right.
You won't just give your heart to any and everybody and they just beating you up time and time again, saying, oh, I love them, or I'm going to be dedicated, and they just continue to abuse you. Wisdom says, oh, no. You might get me once or twice, but after that, now I'm a fool and I might like this. And so you don't want to be that. You don't want to be that way. So was good. I also liked it because he beat on it and it was empty and there was nothing there. And he sung his song and he talked about he wouldn't be able to love and cry and do all these things. But guess what had him there? The rain had got him there and rusted him out. And then there's another part where he gets in there where he starts crying. So, and the Scarecrow is going on the path. And through the whole movie, the Scarecrow is figuring out things for him. So he says he doesn't have a brain, no wisdom, but he's figuring things out the entire time.
So they were using the very gifts that they were looking for all along.
I think you need to repeat that. They were using the gifts that what?
They were looking for all along.
Wow. So you want to make sure that you're not, wow, looking for gifts in everybody else and you have them already. And so then they go on. What happens again? The enemy shows up. She shows up again on top of the house and she's trying to set Scarecrow on fire and they defeat her again and then they keep going. And last but not least on this journey, they meet up with what's called a cowardly lion who was afraid of his own tail. He was afraid of his own tail. And I think that's huge because on this journey of enlightenment, you must have courage. You must remain courageous in the face of danger. You must remain courageous. And what I mean by that, that was talking about what I was saying before about the faith and the sight thing. Regardless of what you see, you still want to push on. You still, what the scripture say, still pressing toward the mark, right? You're still going for that higher calling. And I listened to
and I mean, to all our Black men on here tonight, you guys have to exercise courage every time you walk out the door.
Yeah.
And you have to be in intuition and you have to stay in wisdom.
Yeah.
That's the only way we can really navigate what we're going through on a daily basis.
No doubt.
Period.
No doubt. Yeah, definitely. My heart goes
and
out
I mean,
to
women,
all of us.
we know it's been a lot of things for women too, but I'm speaking to some events. Is Beyonce trying to, did you have something to say, Auntie? No, but she did put in the comments that she judges what people do, not what they say.
Yeah, that's so important. It's so important. Oh yeah, somebody, they've been trying to teach it to their boys. Okay, Nate have something. All right, so for the 3 members Dorothy meets in the movie.
And Camila said, yes, we've been trying to teach this to our 4 boys.
Wow.
Powerful.
So every day, 4 boys. Ooh, that's tough. Prayers out to you guys. Definitely. Go ahead, Nate.
Yeah, so just something thinking about the people she meets along the journey, right? She meets the Scarecrow, she meets the Tin Man, and she meets the Cowardly Lion, as we call him. For me personally, as I've always thought about, as I've lived through life, and every time I realize there's something that I want, or I notice that there's some sort of deficiency that I have noticed in myself, right? Like Scarecrow doesn't think he has brains, Tin Man doesn't have a heart, Lion doesn't have courage. When I pray for these things or say like, hey, like, I wish I had more courage or I wish I had more brains, the way it typically shows up is an opportunity for me to exercise the very thing that I wanted to have.
Yeah.
Right. So if I thought I wanted to be, hey, like, I just wish I was more outgoing. I just wish I was more of an extrovert. What happens? I find myself in a situation where, okay, look, here's an opportunity for you to go out, talk to more people, go out, meet more, do different things. And you just have to look and recognize the things that you're asking for don't necessarily show up just, poof right here, but they show up as trials, tribulations, things for you to actually learn and develop it yourself. Crazy thing, my grandfather used to always tell me he grew up and he didn't think he was a very outgoing person. And he always wanted to be more outgoing. And so how did he do it? He just would see more people and just strike up a conversation until eventually it just became his natural persona.
Wow. So that's
I like that.
So when faith meets opportunity, you find your breakthrough, right?
And that's what HB
You'll find your breakthrough. Yeah.
That's what life is all about, opportunities. Thank you, HB.
Yeah, no doubt. So Rich, go ahead, man. Unmute yourself.
Oh, I didn't want to get too far off the subject, but it's something that struck me when we're talking about the young men, the boys and Black men. It struck me. I heard something just this afternoon I believe I was listening to a newscast or something, and they were talking to the chief of police and of LA County of LA, and they were said that someone on that broadcast had said something. You know how it is when a cop or being a police officer and the spouse of that police officer, every night that he leaves the house, she's wondering and always worried if he's going to come back home. And someone said, well, these Black mothers and Black parents, our boys will leave the house, and we're wondering and worried because of what, in light of things that's gone on in the past, and wondering if they're going to come back home. It's something simple as a traffic stop or a misdemeanor, passing a fake $20 bill, as this man was accused of doing, and things like that. The guy that was selling cigarettes on the street and got choked. So it's like,
right. Uh-oh. Wait, we lost you.
Hey, Rich, hold up. You unmute yourself. There you go.
Yeah, just some of these mothers and parents are sitting at home. Every time a Black young man leaves the house, is he going to come back home? And I just wanted to add to that part right there. So I didn't want to get off the subject, but
no, we appreciate the contribution.
And so we must continue to be wise and courageous, definitely. And we'll stay prayerful, and you know, I believe we're all going to make sure that we also not just pray, but we're going to do something as well. We're going to do something if you're not already doing something. And a lot of you have already been inspiring and trying to encourage you to stay on the straight and narrow and just do things right, and checking people sometimes when they need it. Sometimes that, you know, that's wise too. Sometimes you need to check people where they stand. Just go, all right, okay, I see you, Karen. Let me go on and just get this straight right now, Karen. Before you act up, let me just get this straight. This is who I am. I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to stand for it. All right, let's move on.
And talk to the millennials and the zillennials, because in that age group, it's acceptable sometimes for members of other communities and nations racially to use the N-word.
Yeah.
And that's become commonplace. And I'm talking to every young person I can get to and educate them on why that's not acceptable.
No doubt.
And Beyonce, Peggy has something to add to the conversation.
Oh, go ahead. Unmute yourself. You got it? Yep.
Yeah. So I tuned in tonight to you and Bianca. Alvin is laying right here next to me. He don't want you guys to see him. But I tuned into the two of you because of your positive vibrations. Because right now my vibrations are very negative. Mm-hmm. I have murder and larceny in my heart right now. And what I really, y'all gotta talk me off this mountain, because I'm like ready to go into the jungle and start training Black men and women. And I don't even know how to do this, but get somebody to train them to start. I'm tired of the police killing us. It's time for us to start killing them back. Oh my God, how can you be spiritual and say something like that? Well, I'm going based on what's happened in the last month.
Right.
It used to be just Black men. Now, it doesn't matter as long as you're Black.
Right.
The young lady that was in her house sleep.
Yeah, yeah.
Rest in peace, Breonna Taylor.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. God bless the dead.
Yeah.
Ahmaud Arbery. This man that they just killed this week. And if you notice, all over the United States is starting to jump off.
Yeah.
Because Black people are tired. And I think what it is, we have become so numb to being killed. But it's something about this one, when you see that police sitting on that man's neck, it got so good to him at one point, he put his hand in his pocket and just sat there on that man's neck.
Yeah.
Murder, she wrote.
Yeah.
And I'm just ready.
I think for a lot of them, calling his mom. And then when you found out that his mom had been dead for 2 years, you know, you're like, wait, what? You know? Yeah.
And y'all know I'm a revolutionary, and I'm scary, but some things go beyond fear. And I mean, if we must die, let us die as men and women and not like pigs on the slaughter, because that's what we are right now.
Right.
And this don't have nothing to do with what you guys saying, but this been on my heart and I had to get it out.
Yeah,
Right.
and you know, it was cathartic and you needed to say it. And
Yeah, we know you want to go. You know, I love me some Nat Turner. I know you want to go Nat Turner. I love me some Nat Turner.
you can go Denmark VC.
But we'll go. Yeah, we'll try to take this Denmark VC and maybe go more spiritual route, more holistic route.
The first,
well, but you know, yeah, but yeah. But
I'm Malcolm, not Martin.
and that's what we started this off by saying. Oh, Miss Dorothy, go ahead. Unmute yourself.
The polarity. Yep.
Yeah.
You know, and you know that's where I'm going to, the polarity, because you know I felt the same. I cried. I couldn't sleep that night when I saw that tape. I could not sleep.
Yep.
My sleep would not rest upon me. And what really got me to sleeping was when I turned to the ancestors' music that's in me.
Yeah.
It gave me some strength.
Yeah.
But the strength that the next morning I said, you know, I'm glad I went there. I was angry.
Yeah.
And it was righteous indignation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was righteous indignation that the fact that this pole that we're dealing with, this polarity of humanity is being played based on the color of one's skin, black, white, and others in between. Is the most ignorant. It is the most display of ignorance that it is evil. It's to the point of evil in ignorance.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, I had to really stop because I wanted to go there. I was like, you know, I would march right now. I would die. Yeah. I'm not afraid to die. I got more years behind me than ahead of me. I'm not afraid to die for what I believe. Right. And I had to really get connected. I had to balance this thing. I allowed myself to go from one end of the spectrum to the other. And it's okay because that's humanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And anybody who is human would have felt something when they watched that.
That's right.
If you didn't feel anything watching that, you need to check it. You just need to check yourself, because that was something that I think the world saw, and it just moved. It moved me. But you know, I found myself having to get connected again. It was like that silver you talked about.
Yeah.
When we get out of balance, and then I found myself, we had a meeting yesterday with the city of Los Angeles and some developers in Leimert Park. And, you know, I found myself realizing that we need a spiritual passage back into our African roots.
Yep.
We need a passage. They brought us here through a passage over the sea.
Yeah.
And that was a spirit. Water represents spirit.
Yep. Yep.
We need a higher road, a higher spiritual passage now to get back home.
Yeah. Yeah. And
get connected to who we are, who we truly are, because we're kings and queens. We come, see, that's what the enemy wants to make us feel. It's that feeling we had when he just put his foot on that man's neck.
Yeah.
Like you said, like a dog in the street.
Wow.
But what we need to know is we come from royalty. God lived with us.
That's right.
And they know it.
Yep.
And they use that power. We got to get back there, you guys.
Yes. And I really think that I think that we've allowed, and I don't like to say that it's religion's fault. I don't want to say that, because religion is just man's search for spirituality. That's how religion came about. Religion, I don't blame religion no more than I blame a gun by itself. But in the hands of an idiot, religion becomes very, very dangerous, right? And so and a gun can too. So what has happened is, in the hands of those that aren't wise, they've taken religion and really watered down our spirituality. We've allowed them to do it. And now we don't find balance. Some of us are just too natural. Some of us got too spiritual. We need to find that balance. And I agree with you. I found myself going into, and I said, you know what? It's all right. I'm gonna be a little ticked off today. I'm gonna just channel it in the right way, but I'm gonna be a little ticked off today, you know, and I was all right with it. And I was at peace being ticked off, if that makes sense, right?
Well,
because you have to allow your human side to be there, right? Go ahead,
yes,
guys.
and we're talking about enlightenment. We're talking about getting home. So what are some of the ways you said you use music to get back balance, some of the ancestral music? I know we got some people on here besides yourself that meditate. What are other ways that some of us swing back and balance it? Because that's what we're really talking about.
Right.
And getting back to the story of Oz, there was a false prophet at the end. So really what you need, you already have. So this is what this conversation, this is what we're all about here.
Yep.
So if anybody,
everything that they needed, they really found that they already had it. He sent them on a bogus journey to do his bidding, only to come back to find out that we already had it. And then check this out. And this was probably the most powerful thing that I recognized. Dorothy went from youthful to maturity, right? Went on her whole journey. And her key to getting home was on her feet the whole time. All she had to do was click her shoes 3 times. But it took the right person of understanding to tell her that. And so for you and I, for us to get back home, that's what we're saying, right? Where we may have to do a little fighting a little bit, naturally and spiritually. It's going to take the right people and the right people, because we can't go all. And that's what talking to Peggy, we don't want to go all gangster, you know what I mean? We don't want to go, I know we want to, but it's not good, because if we're not wise and just do it with emotion, we'll hurt some of the wrong people. That's what I'm saying. So we got
There's lanes for everybody though.
Huh?
There's lanes for everyone.
I like that. Yes. I'm one to tell you in a minute. I know my lane. I know my lane, and I'll leave it up to those who lane. And man, I will definitely follow or listen or do what I need to do in my lane. But it's very, very, very important. So did anybody have anything else on any of that? So what is that?
Antoinette says, I eat healthy, literally. At that moment, you know how some people binge on ice cream while upset? I fuel my body with something nutritious. Opposite action. That's powerful, Antoinette. So she's saying to bring balance back, she literally goes to health versus if you feel yourself gravitating to something negative. I like that. That's powerful.
That's very interesting. I like that. Yeah.
And being that May was Mental Health Awareness Month, one of my sources, she said, who's in the, she is a professional in mental health care. And she said, when you are not feeling at your best, the first thing that's being attacked is you're going to feel discouraged. You're going to feel like you don't want to have the ability to do things, right? So your motivation is attacked,
right?
And she said one of the cures is to do the opposite action of what you feel. So when you don't want to make up your bed, make up your bed. When you don't want to go for that walk, go for that walk. Like opposite action, but you got to stay woke, because if you check out, you won't even realize that you have been cut off and that you're in a place of lack of motivation, lack of of willingness to go forward.
I like that. So for imbalance, to get balance, you have to counter. Right? And that's what we were saying. I like that. That's a great one, Antoinette, to eat healthy whenever I'm feeling imbalance. And so they get to the end of this journey. Now you go back and you'll watch The Wizard of Oz in a whole nother way, or read the book in a whole nother way, because there's so much more in there that you saw that we didn't get into. We got pages of notes that we looked at. I mean, she put the Wicked Witch put them to sleep right before they got to their breakthrough. Right before they got to the Emerald City, she put them to sleep. And how did she do it? Man, Lord have mercy. She distracted them though by changing the seasons. She changed the seasons. That just came to me. Yeah. She distracted them by changing, and it really wasn't winter. She made it look like winter.
Well, winter was to wake her up.
Right, but then she fast forwarded it, made it look like winter to put them to sleep so they can go to sleep, and then winter actually was there to help them. It actually woke them up and was able to flip it. But that's what I'm saying. So we got to be careful in what season you're in too. That's kind of going back to what Peggy's saying, staying in your lane. You can't get out of your lane and operate out of season. This might not be your season to go get them, but next season it is. So right now, what should you be doing? Storing up all that you can. So when it is time for you to fight, you'll be readily and prepared.
Educate
right?
your sphere of influence. Let other communities know what we feeling, and educate them on our experience.
No doubt,
in
no
a
doubt.
healthy way.
And make sure you surround yourself with some healthy people, please. Because you go back and you look at those characters, the lion, the Tin Man, the Scarecrow. They were all people that lived on her farm with her. They were all familiar.
Different bodies, same spirits.
Your wisdom, when you recognize your wisdom, your courage, you will realize it's familiar. It was there the whole time. It was there the entire time. It just took, Nate said, opportunity. The yellow brick road was the opportunity. It took opportunity for you to really see your spiritual gifts. And we love y'all. We thank y'all for this conversation today. Anybody got anything else that they want to bring? Go watch the Wizard of Oz. Go read the book. Check it out. Let us know what you think, what you thought. Life is a journey. Life is definitely a journey. And remember that most of us right now, who we are at this moment, you know what? Everything that you are in this moment is made up of your past memories. You want to know how to change your present? Go make new memories. That's how you change your present. Go do different things, and then then those new things will be your past, and as you're in your present, it'll be different. Most of us right now are just responding to the negativity in our past.
And we want to thank you all for being our community, name by name, number by number, because we couldn't have a conversation alone. Thank you for being our community. Thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for pushing us to be the best and pouring into us. So please, y'all, we all in this together. Share the video. Follow at TheCoreofU, letter U, on IG, Facebook, and subscribe to the YouTube. And we're all trying to stay.
One last thing.
Go ahead.
One last thing. Remember, we are great. That is why we are hated. We have to remember how great we truly are. And we have to learn to internalize it so that we cannot let ourselves be brainwashed. I think that's going to be my affirmation every morning, that we are great.
I love it.
I love that. Positive affirmations. Another tip to bring us back balance.
Rick said the Wiz was better. The Wiz definitely had better characters and music, man. I agree with you there. No doubt. So we're going to take y'all out with a little bit of our song again, and then we're going to close this out. Y'all please share the video. Let people know we're trying to do this. Maybe not every week, but we really want to try to get some light out here in darkness. We really, really do. We really want to get this out, and you can send us some questions if you have something that you're working on, some thoughts that you may be thinking of, whatever it is. We want this to be a healthy place for you to be yourself and express and grow. We all want to grow. What you got? Something, George?
Yeah, I've been waiting to get off work just to get on here. They trying to figure out what I was doing, looking at my phone. No, I enjoyed it. You know, that's awesome. What's up. So yeah, awesome. I'll be on here a lot more. Like I said, I was when I saw it, I wanted to show some love and stuff like that. But like you said, we are great. That's why we are hated. And just because we are few don't mean we can't get the job done. We've got to connect, like you said, and these moments and these times is the best time for us to do that, because we always show up and show out when we are put under something. Because when it's too easy, we take it too easy. That's right. And that's how things work out. When we are in these situations, a lot of times that's when we shine better. Is when they say we can't, or don't do it, or you can't do it, or you can't have it. And that's what pushes us to make sure that we show them and ourselves that it can be done. So I love it. I love you guys. I appreciate it, man. Like I said, man, I've been walking around my job, looking and trying to listen and hear what everybody got to say. Yeah. But it's just one of those things, man. Love is a powerful thing, and we got to make sure we use that just as well as that anger, because that anger will burn you out. Because believe you me, I've been on fire, myself, and if you you friends me on Facebook, you've seen some of the shots I've been shooting out. But for the most part, it's just one of those things that we have to share. We got to share the love, we got to share the grief, we got to share the joy. We have to share because, like you said, as a community, we didn't get raised by ourselves. I'm a Laketon. I know, wherever I was at, especially spiritual, in church, I was raised by more than just my physical family. I was raised by, wherever we was at. So, and that's what we need to get to. And like you said, the core, that community thing is what it is, but I'm off my box now.
We appreciate it. And Rick wrote, unity is key. Rick Duncan.
Rich, you had something?
Quickly too, I just wanted to elaborate on the positive and the negative, how we try to stay on that plane. So all the negativity that's going on around us with the killings and the COVID-19 and stay-at-home orders and everything, but we just need to, I think, collectively, individually dive into something positive, because something positive is going to cancel out the negative at some point in time. It seems like all of it's going negative right now, but there's some positive things that are coming out of COVID-19, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So I think that as long as we continue to stay, like you said, the positive and the negative, as long as we dive ourselves into something positive at this time, right now, when you're feeling the most hurt, the most anger, the most doubt, the most fear, that you dive into something positive at this time, that something good will come out of it.
Action. That's right.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Love that.
Thank you for that contribution. That's powerful.
Nobody else? All right, we're gonna take y'all out with our song, and then we'll probably log off of here, guys.
We appreciate the support, fam. Thank you for all the comments.
Oh, you took it off.
Dang, I sound good.
I see you down there, Beavers. What's going on, brother? Harvey Beavers. What's going on, baby?